Captain Lee Hyun stood at the window of the human embassy ship, watching the massive space station grow larger as they approached. The Galactic Council station was bigger than any city on Earth. Thousands of ships from hundreds of different worlds moved around it like tiny insects. After 300 years of space travel, humans were finally going to meet their neighbors. First time seeing the station, Dr. Park Sora walked up beside him. She carried a data pad filled with notes about alien biology. Her dark eyes sparkled with excitement. Yes, hard to believe we're really here. Lee Hyun had spent most of his life as a soldier on Earth. Now he was supposed to be a diplomat. The idea still felt strange to him. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho joined them at the window. He was older than both of them, with gray hair and worried lines around his eyes. Remember, we need to make a good first impression. Humanity's future depends on how well we fit in here. The docking process took 2 hours. When they finally stepped onto the station, Lee Hyun felt like he was in a dream. Creatures he had only seen in pictures walked past them. Some had 4 arms, others had tentacles instead of legs. A few were so tall they had to duck under doorways, while others were barely knee-high. Their guide was a blue-skinned alien named Coordinator Zelhan. He had large black eyes and spoke through a translation device that made his voice sound like music. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humans of Earth. You are the 847th species to join our great community. 847, Dr. Park Sora whispered. We're really the new kids here. Coordinator Zelhan led them through the station. He showed them the great council chambers where representatives from all the worlds met to discuss trade and solve problems. He explained the rules that kept peace between so many different species. The most important rule, Zelhan said, is the civilized warfare protocol. When disagreements cannot be solved with words, we settle them with honor games instead of real war. Honor games? Ambassador Kim Tae-ho asked. Yes. Combat with energy dampeners and safety shields. No one dies. Pride may be hurt, but that heals. We learned long ago that real war only brings suffering. Lee Hyun nodded. But something felt wrong to him. In his years as a soldier, he had learned that sometimes evil people only understood force. Real force, not games. They were taken to meet High Commander Kel Nash of the Velthari Empire. The Velthari looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. Kel Nash was bigger than the rest, with golden scales and sharp teeth that showed when he talked. So these are the famous Deathworlders, Kel Nash said. His voice was deep and full of amusement. From the dangerous planet Earth. Our world has challenges, Ambassador Kim replied carefully. But we have learned to work together despite them. How fascinating. Tell me, little mammals, what makes your world so deadly? Dr. Park Sora stepped forward. Earth has extreme weather, natural disasters, and many dangerous animals. Humans had to become tough to survive. And yet you look so fragile, another Velthari said. No claws, no thick skin, no poison. How did such weak creatures become the top species on a death world? Lee Hyun felt his jaw tighten. These aliens were treating humans like amusing pets. We learned to use tools. We learned to work as teams. We never gave up, no matter how hard things got. Kel Nash laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Tools and teamwork. How simple. Well, we shall see how well these skills serve you in the honor games. The next few weeks passed quickly. Humans learned about galactic society and trade. They made friends with some species and tried to avoid others. But again and again, they were challenged to honor games. The first challenge came from the Keth Mori, a race of bird-like creatures who claimed to be the best pilots in the galaxy. They wanted to test human flying skills in a mock space battle. Captain Lee Hyun led the human team. They climbed into borrowed ships fitted with safety systems and energy dampeners. The weapons could not kill, only disable other ships temporarily. This should be interesting. Dr. Park said from the command center where she watched with other observers. The battle began. The Keth-Mori flew in perfect formations, their movements as graceful as a dance. But Lee Hyun and his team did something unexpected. Instead of trying to match their enemy's grace, they fought dirty. They used asteroids as cover. They pretended to retreat, then attacked from unexpected angles. When the Keth-Mori tried to surround them, the humans split up and attacked. Different targets at once. Within 30 minutes, all the Keth-Mori ships were disabled. The bird creatures sat in stunned silence. "How did you do that?" the Keth-Mori commander asked later. "On Earth, survival matters more than looking good," Lee Hyun replied. Word spread quickly through the station. More species wanted to challenge. The humans. The Zurikani tested human ground fighting skills. The Moltec challenged them to strategic planning games. The Crystalline Collective wanted to see how humans handled multiple tasks at once. Every time, humans won. Not because they were stronger or faster, but because they thought differently. They broke rules that other species did not even know could be broken. They used strategies that seemed impossible to civilized minds. Dr. Park So-ra studied the reactions of other species. "They're fascinated by us," she told Ambassador Kim. "But also worried." Worried about what? About what we might do if we ever stop playing by their rules. High Commander Kelnash watched the humans win their 7th honor game in a row. His golden scales darkened with anger. The other Velthari around him whispered nervously. "These mammals are making us look weak," one of them said. "They fight without honor," another complained. "They use tricks and deception." Kelnash's large hands gripped the railing in front of him. "They are still just primitives from a backwater world. They may win these children's games, but they have never faced real war. They do not understand true power." "What do you suggest, High Commander?" Kelnash's teeth showed in what might have been a smile. "Perhaps it is time to show them the difference between playing and fighting. Time to teach these Deathworlders that some lessons can only be learned through pain." Ambassador Kim Tae-ho felt proud of his people's success in the honor games. Humans were proving they belonged in galactic society. They were showing that Earth's children could stand with any species in the galaxy. But late at night, when he looked out at the stars, Kim worried. He had spent years studying alien cultures before coming here. He knew that not all species were as peaceful as they pretended. He knew that beneath the civilized surface, old hatreds and jealousies still burned. Lee Hyun shared his concerns. "Some of these aliens look at us like we're dangerous animals. They're afraid of us, but they're also angry that they're afraid." "The Velthari especially," Dr. Park added. "I've been watching their body language. They're humiliated by losing to us so often." "Then maybe we should lose a few games on purpose," Kim suggested. Lee Hyun shook his head. "That would be worse. They'd see it as pity, and that would make them even angrier. No, we have to keep being ourselves. We have to keep showing them that humans don't give up." Neither of them knew that High Commander Kelnash was already planning something that would change everything, something that would show the galaxy what humans really became when they stopped playing games and started fighting for real. The peaceful days were almost over. Commander Choi Min-ho stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Busan and smiled. Through the main window, he could see Harmony 7 spinning slowly below them. The planet looked like a blue and green jewel against the black of space. After 2 years of hard work, the human colony was finally thriving. "The morning report, sir," his communications officer said, handing him a data pad. "All departments are running well. The farms are producing more food than we need. The children's school just opened its 3rd classroom." Choi nodded with satisfaction. 50,000 humans had made Harmony 7 their home. They had built cities, planted crops, and started families. It was exactly what Earth had hoped for when they joined the galactic community. Dr. Yoon Ji-won entered the bridge carrying her medical scanner. She was not only the colony's chief medical officer, but also Choi's partner. They had been together for 5 years, through all the challenges of starting a new world. "How are the health checks going?" Choi asked her. "Everyone is doing great. The air is clean, the water is pure, and we have not had a single serious illness in months. Harmony 7th is living up to its name." She paused to look out at the planet. "The children especially love it here. Little Kang Da-yoon told me yesterday that she never wants to go back to Earth because the flowers here smell better." Choi laughed. Da-eun was 8 years old and had been born during the journey to Harmony 7th. To her, this world was home. That was how it should be. "Sir, we're getting a message from the Galactic Council Station," the communications officer reported. "It's marked as urgent. Put it through." Ambassador Kim Tae-ho's worried face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Choi could see the busy corridors of the council station. "Min-ho, I need to warn you about something. We've been getting reports that the Velthari Empire is moving ships toward human space." "Moving ships? What kind of ships?" "Military vessels. High Commander Kelnash claims they're just conducting training exercises, but our intelligence suggests otherwise." Dr. Yoon moved closer to the screen. "What kind of threat are we talking about? An honor game challenge?" Kim's expression grew darker. "We don't think so. The Velthari have been angry about losing so many competitions to us. Some of our allies are saying Kelnash wants to teach humans a lesson about respect." "What does that mean exactly?" Choi asked. "We're not sure, but I want you to be careful. Keep your sensors active and be ready to call for help if anything unusual happens." Choi nodded. "Understood. We'll stay alert." After the call ended, Choi ordered his crew to increase security patrols. He did not really expect trouble, but it was better to be safe. Harmony 7 was far from any major trade routes. It seemed unlikely that anyone would bother coming all the way out here just to cause problems. He was wrong. 3 days later, the sensors detected ships approaching the system. Big ships, warships. "Sir, we have 12 Velthari vessels incoming," the sensor operator reported. "They're moving fast and they're not responding to our communications." Choi felt his stomach tighten. "Send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we have uninvited visitors." Dr. Yoon was already at her station, checking on the colony's status. "All civilians are accounted for. Should I order an evacuation to the emergency shelters?" "Not yet. Maybe they really are just here for training exercises." The Velthari ships entered orbit around Harmony 7th. They were massive vessels, each one bigger than the colony ship. Their dark metal hulls bristled with weapons that looked far more serious than the energy dampeners used in honor games. Admiral Velthari Zendos appeared on the communication screen. He was even larger than High Commander Kelnash, with black scales and red eyes that seemed to burn with hatred. "Human colonists of Harmony the 7th, Zendos said, in a voice like grinding metal. "You have been judged guilty of showing disrespect to the Velthari Empire. Your species thinks it is clever, winning your little games and making us look weak. Today, you will learn the price of such arrogance." Choi stepped forward. "Admiral, we have no quarrel with your people. This is a peaceful colony with families and children. If you have a problem with human behavior, please take it up with our representatives at the Galactic Council." Zendos laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "The Galactic Council? Those fools who make rules about civilized warfare? Today we will show you what real war looks like." "Wait," Dr. Yoon said, moving beside Choi. "You can't attack civilians. It's against every galactic law. If you want an honor game, we'll fight your champions according to the protocols." Protocols? Zendos's red eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Deathworlders should understand that strength matters more than rules. Your world made you tough, but you have forgotten how to use that toughness. Let me remind you." The first weapons that hit Harmony 7th were not energy beams or plasma cannons. They were something much worse. Biological weapons, viruses and toxins that had been banned by every civilized species for thousands of years. The poison clouds spread across the main colony like green fog. People who breathed it began to scream. The weapons were designed to cause maximum pain before death. They attacked the nervous system, making every nerve ending feel like it was on fire. Dr. Yoon ran to her medical station, trying desperately to find some way to help. "Minho, the contamination is spreading too fast. I can't stop it." Choi watched in horror as the people he had sworn to protect died in agony below. Men, women, children, elderly people. The biological weapons did not care about age or innocence. "Get me a communication link to Earth," he ordered. "Emergency frequency." While he waited for the connection, more Velthari weapons struck the planet. These were not designed to destroy buildings or equipment. They were designed to kill slowly and painfully. Every shot was aimed at areas where civilians had gathered. 8-year-old Kang Da-eun was in the school playground when the second wave hit. Choi watched through the colony's security cameras as the little girl who loved the flowers of Harmony 7th fell to the ground, her small body shaking with pain. "Earth Command, this is Commander Choi Min-ho of Harmony 7th, he said when the connection finally came through. "We are under attack. Biological weapons. 50,000 civilians." Dr. Yoon grabbed his arm. "Min-ho, look at the medical readings. They're not just killing people. They're making sure everyone suffers as much as possible before they die." On the screen, Admiral Zendos watched the destruction with satisfaction. "Are you learning your lesson, Deathworlders? This is what happens when primitives forget their place." Choi felt something break inside his chest. Something that had kept him civilized and hopeful. "You're killing children. Children grow up to be adults who show disrespect. Better to end the problem early." Dr. Yoon was crying now as she read the medical scanners. "The biological agents are designed to keep people conscious while they die. The children are calling for their parents. The parents are watching their children suffer and can't help them." "How long?" Choi asked quietly. 6 hours, maybe 7. Then everyone on the planet will be dead." Choi looked at the Velthari Admiral on the screen. "You want to see what Deathworlders are really like when they stop playing games? You want to see what happens when you hurt our children?" Zendos seemed pleased. "Yes. Show me your anger, primitive. Show me how helpless you are." Choi smiled. Then. But it was not a human expression anymore. It was something colder and more terrible. "No. I'm going to show you something much worse than anger. I'm going to show you what happens when humans stop caring about rules." He opened a communication channel to Earth Command. "This is Commander Choi Min-ho. Harmony 7 has fallen. 50,000 civilians dead or dying from biological weapons. The enemy has shown us that they do not believe in civilized warfare." The voice that answered him was calm and cold. "Understood, Commander. Are you requesting military assistance?" "No. I'm requesting permission to show the galaxy what humans are really like when someone hurts our families." There was a long pause. Then, "Permission granted. All restrictions removed. Show them what Earth's children learned in the dark." Dr. Yoon looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Min-ho, what are you going to do?" "I'm going to make sure that every species in the galaxy remembers this day. I'm going to make sure they understand that there are some lines you never cross." He turned to his crew. "Set course for the Velthari fleet. Disable all safety systems. Load the kinetic charges." "Sir, those charges are for mining asteroids. They're not legal weapons. Nothing we're about to do is legal. But after today, nobody will ever hurt human children again. On Harmony 7 below, the last of the colonists were dying. Little Kang Da-eun's voice could be heard on the emergency channels, calling for her mother in between screams of pain. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth was called a death world, and why the species that survived there had learned to become monsters when monsters were needed. Fleet Admiral Jiang Subin stood in the command center of Earth's main military base, watching the reports come in from Harmony the Seventh. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands were clenched so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. She had been a soldier for 30 years. She had seen war and death and suffering. But this was different. 50,000 civilians, General Oh Dong-wook said quietly beside her, including over 8,000 children. Biological weapons, Dr. Lim, Hae-young added from her position at the science station, designed to cause maximum pain. They wanted our people to suffer. Admiral Jiang turned to the communications screen where Ambassador Kim Tae-ho was waiting. Behind him, on the Galactic Council station, she could see alien representatives running back and forth in panic. "What is the Council's response?" she asked. Kim's voice was bitter. "They have condemned the attack as regrettable. They are calling for formal trade sanctions against the Velthari Empire. They want us to file a complaint through proper diplomatic channels." "Trade sanctions," General O repeated slowly. "They murder our children, and the Council suggests we stop selling them goods. The Council representatives are scared," Kim continued. "They keep saying that this is the first time in 1,000 years that anyone has used biological weapons against civilians. They don't know how to respond to something this extreme." Admiral Jiang walked to the main display screen. It showed a map of human space and the surrounding alien territories. Small blue dots marked human colonies. Red dots showed Velthari military positions. "How many of our people are in systems near Velthari space?" "About 2 million, her aide replied. "Spread across 12 colonies. Evacuate them, all of them, immediately." "Admiral, that will take months. Where will we put 2 million people?" "Anywhere that's safe. Use every ship we have. I don't care if they have to sleep in cargo holds." She turned to face the room. "As of this moment, every human colony near hostile territory is being moved to safe space." Dr. Lim raised her hand. "Admiral, what about our agreements with the Galactic Council? We promised to follow the civilized warfare protocols." Admiral Jiang was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was very calm. "The Velthari have shown us that those protocols are meaningless. They used weapons that could kill our children slowly and painfully. They attacked people who had no way to fight back. They broke every rule that civilized species are supposed to follow. So what do? We show them what happens when you force Deathworlders to remember what they really are." She opened a channel to Captain Ryu Sang-min, who was waiting aboard the military ship Incheon Thunder. "Captain, you have your orders. Take your team to the Velthari border systems. Find their military bases. Use whatever methods you think are necessary." "What about prisoners, Admiral?" "What about them? Do you want us to take any?" Admiral Jiang thought about 8-year-old Kang Da-un dying in a playground while calling for her mother. "No." On the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Kim watched the alien representatives argue with each other. Some wanted to send peacekeeping forces to stop any human retaliation. Others thought the Velthari had brought this on themselves. A few suggested that maybe it was time to expel humans from the galactic community before they became too dangerous. Hi. Commander Kel Nash sat in his seat looking pleased with himself. He had not spoken since the reports from Harmony 7 came in, but his golden scales seemed to shine brighter than usual. "The humans are evacuating their border colonies," announced the Keth Mori representative. "They're pulling back from Velthari space." "Good," Kel Nash said. "Perhaps they have learned some humility. Perhaps they understand their place now." Ambassador Kim stood up slowly. Every alien in the council chamber turned to look at him. "I have a message from Earth." "What does your world have to say?" asked the council president, a tall creature with purple skin and 4 arms. Kim pulled out a data pad and read from it. "The government of Earth formally withdraws from all civilized warfare protocols. We no longer recognize any rules of engagement that were created by species who allow the murder of children to go unpunished. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The council president raised one of his hands for silence. Ambassador Kim, your government cannot simply choose to ignore galactic law. Our government can do anything it wants to protect human lives. You have shown us that our children's safety means nothing to you. You think trade sanctions are a proper response to genocide. You have taught us that in this galaxy, mercy is seen as weakness. Kim looked directly at High Commander Kelnash. You wanted to see Deathworlders fight? You wanted to teach us about real war? Congratulations. You are about to learn why our world made us the way we are. Kelnash laughed, the same grinding sound as before. Threats, little mammal? You are still bound by council law. You cannot attack Velthari territory without cause. We have cause. You murdered 50,000 of our people. Admiral Zendos was conducting a military demonstration. If civilians were harmed, that is regrettable, but not our responsibility. Kim smiled then, and several alien representatives stepped back from the expression on his face. You're right. What happened at Harmony Seventh is not your responsibility. It's your mistake. Before anyone could ask what he meant, alarms began ringing throughout the station. The main display screen lit up with incoming messages from across the galaxy. Council President, a communications officer called out. We're getting emergency. Reports from multiple systems. Velthari military installations are under attack. Under attack by whom? The president demanded. Unknown vessels. They're not broadcasting any identification signals. They're using weapons that our sensors can't recognize. On the screen, images appeared from security cameras on Velthari military bases. Dark ships appeared without warning, moving faster than anything the galaxy had seen before. They struck with weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. Captain, Ryu Sangmin's voice came through the communication system, cold and professional. Velthari Central Command. This is Captain Ryu of Earth. You have 1 hour to surrender all personnel responsible for the attack on Harmony 7th. If you refuse, we will consider all Velthari military targets to be legitimate. High Commander. Kelnash stood up, his golden scales now dark with anger. This is illegal. You cannot attack our forces without following proper procedures. You didn't follow proper procedures when you killed our children, Captain Ryu replied. You taught us that rules don't matter when you want to hurt someone. We're very good students. The attacks continued for 6 hours. Every Velthari military base in 3-star systems was destroyed completely. No ships escaped. No survivors were found. The human forces used weapons that the galaxy had never seen before, devices that Dr. Lim had created by removing every safety system and moral restriction from Earth's most advanced technology. When it was over, Admiral Jang appeared on screens throughout the galaxy. Behind her stood General O and Dr. Lim, along with hundreds of other human military officers. All of them had the same cold expression. People of the galaxy, Admiral Yang said, today the Velthari Empire taught us an important lesson. They showed us that in your civilization, there are no real consequences for murdering children. They showed us that your laws protect the strong and ignore the weak. She paused to let that sink in. We have learned your lesson well. From this moment forward, any attack on human civilians will be met with total war. Not the pretend fighting you call civilized warfare. Real war. The kind our world taught us to fight. This is madness, the council president shouted from his chamber. You cannot threaten the entire galaxy. Admiral Jang looked directly into the camera. We are not threatening anyone. We are making a promise. Hurt our people, and we will hurt you back 10 times worse. Kill our children, and we will make sure you never have the chance to kill anyone again. General O stepped forward. Some of you are wondering if humans have become monsters. That's the wrong question. The right question is, what kind of monsters? Do you become when someone murders your children and the galaxy calls it regrettable? Dr. Lim was the last to speak. We came to your civilization hoping to learn from you. You have taught us that strength is the only thing you respect. You have taught us that mercy is meaningless to you. Thank you for the education. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, alien species looked at each other with new understanding. The humans were no longer the amusing primitives who won honor games with clever tricks. They had become something much more dangerous, something that remembered how to kill without rules, how to fight without mercy, and how to make war in ways that civilized species had forgotten. High Commander Kel Nash sat in his chair, staring at the reports of his destroyed military bases. For the first time in his life, he felt afraid. Not afraid of losing a battle or being embarrassed, afraid of what he had created. The Deathworlders had stopped playing games, and the galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. Colonel Bae Young-sik crouched in the ruins of what had once been a Velthari communications center. Around him, his team of 20 humans moved through the darkness like ghosts. They had been on the planet Velkorin for 3 days, and in that time they had destroyed every military target worth hitting. But Colonel Bae was not satisfied with destroying buildings. He wanted to break the enemy's will to fight. Sir, we've located the Civilian Evacuation Center. Technical Sergeant Nam. Hojin reported through his earpiece. About 3,000 Velthari civilians, mostly families with children. Good. Set up the speakers around the building. I want everyone inside to hear what we're about to broadcast. What message should we send? Colonel Bae smiled in the darkness. It was not a kind smile. Tell them that their military leaders used biological weapons on human children. Tell them that because of those leaders' choices, their own children are now in danger. Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender their leaders to us, or we will treat this as a military facility. Sir, those are civilians. They have nothing to do with what happened at Harmony 7th. Their leaders didn't think our civilians had anything to do with the honor games. They killed our children anyway. Now these people can choose whether they want to protect the murderers or protect their own families. Nam Hojin hesitated. Colonel, this goes against everything we learned about the rules of war. The rules of war? Colonel Bae turned to look at his sergeant. Show me the rule that says you can use biological weapons on children. Show me the rule that says murdering 50,000 civilians is acceptable. The Velthari threw away the A rules when they attacked Harmony 7th. We're just following their example. The speakers crackled to life around the evacuation center. Colonel Bae's voice echoed through the building in perfect Velthari language. Citizens of Velkorin, this is Colonel Bae of Earth's military forces. Your leaders ordered the use of biological weapons against human children on Harmony 7th. Because of their choices, you are now considered enemies of humanity. Inside the building, Velthari families huddled together in fear. They had been told that humans were primitive and weak. They had been told that the attack on Harmony the 7th was necessary to teach the Deathworlders respect. Now they were learning what humans did when they stopped showing respect in return. You have 1 hour to bring us the military commanders responsible for the Harmony 7th attack. If you comply, you will be allowed to leave this planet safely. If you refuse, we will consider this building a military command center and act accordingly. The Velthari civilians began to argue among themselves. Some wanted to protect their military leaders. Others were terrified of what the humans might do. A few remembered the reports from the destroyed military bases and knew that these Deathworlders were nothing like the weak creatures they had been told about. 30 minutes later, a group of Velthari civilians emerged from the building. They were carrying 5 military officers bound and unconscious. We found them hiding in the basement, one of the civilians said. Please don't hurt our children. They had nothing to do with this. Colonel Bae looked at the captured officers. One of them was Admiral Zendos himself, the one who had ordered the biological attack on Harmony 7th. You made the right choice. Take your families and leave this planet. Go to the neutral zones. Stay away from military installations. What will you do to the officers? That's not your concern anymore. As the civilians fled, Colonel Bay's team set up a communication array. They were going to broadcast what happened next to every Velthari world in the Empire. Meanwhile, in space above the planet, Commander Shin A-Ra was preparing for the largest naval operation humans had ever attempted. Her fleet of 50 ships hung in the darkness between star systems, invisible to enemy sensors. "Ma'am, we have confirmation from our intelligence teams," her communications officer reported. 6 Velthari fleet bases, 12 supply depots, and 27 patrol squadrons, all located and marked for simultaneous strike. What about their defensive systems? Our technical teams have found a way to disable their shields using their own communication networks. When we attack, they won't be able to protect themselves or call for help. Commander Shin nodded. This was not the kind of warfare that galactic civilization understood. This was total war, the kind that Earth's history had taught humans to fight when their very survival was threatened. Begin the operation. I want every target hit within the same 10-minute window. No survivors, no escape ships, no distress signals. Yes, ma'am. Initiating Ghost Protocol. Across 6 star systems, human ships appeared without warning. They moved faster than Velthari sensors could track, using technology that Dr. Lim had developed by ignoring every galactic treaty about weapons. Research. The attacks were over before most Velthari officers even realized they were under fire. Entire fleets vanished in minutes. Supply bases that had existed for centuries became clouds of debris. The pride of the Velthari Empire's military might was reduced to wreckage. But the humans were not finished. Captain Ko Eun-jung sat in her command center aboard the ship Jeju Storm, preparing to launch the psychological warfare campaign that would break the Velthari Empire's spirit. She had studied their culture for months, learning their fears and weaknesses. "Broadcasting on all Velthari frequencies," her communications officer announced. Captain Ko's face appeared on screens throughout Velthari space. Behind her, images showed the destroyed fleets and military bases. But more importantly, they showed Admiral Zendos and his officers, bound and helpless. "People of the Velthari Empire," she said in their language, "your leaders told you that humans were weak. They said we were primitives who could be taught lessons through violence. They were wrong." The images shifted to show recordings from Harmony 7th, the dying children, the screaming families, the slow, agonizing deaths caused by biological weapons. "Your military commanders did this to our people. They murdered our children and called it a demonstration. They wanted to show us what real war looked like, so we decided to show them." The screen now displayed a map of Velthari space. Red marks appeared wherever human forces had struck. There were dozens of them, spread across the entire empire. "In the past week, we have destroyed 60% of your military forces. We have done this without losing a single human ship. We have done this while following your example of what real war looks like." Captain Ko paused to let the implications sink in. "But we are not done. Your leaders started this war by murdering our children. We will finish it by removing your ability to hurt anyone ever again." On the Velthari homeworld, High Commander Kelnash watched the broadcast with growing horror. His golden scales had turned dark gray with fear. Around him, his advisors whispered in panic. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked. "Less than 30% of our original fleet, Commander. And the humans are using weapons we don't understand. Our shields don't stop them. Our sensors can't track them." "What about our allies? Will the other species help us?" "No, sir. The Galactic Council has declared this a bilateral conflict. They won't intervene as long as the humans don't attack other species." Kelnash slammed his clawed hand on the table. "This is madness. They're supposed to be civilized. They're supposed to follow the rules. Sir, perhaps we should consider surrender. If we return the bodies from Harmony 7 and pay compensation..." "Surrender?" Kelnash's red eyes burned with rage. "The Velthari Empire does not surrender to primitives." But even as he spoke, reports were coming in of more attacks. Human forces were not just destroying military targets now. They were attacking infrastructure, supply lines, communication networks. They were systematically dismantling the Velthari, Empire's ability to function as a civilization. Technical Sergeant Nam Ho Jin's team had perfected a new tactic. They would appear in a system, destroy all the military forces, then use the destroyed ships as kinetic weapons against planetary targets. Chunks of Velthari warships, accelerated to incredible speeds, struck military academies and government buildings with the force of nuclear weapons. "It's poetic justice," Nam Ho Jin explained to his team. "They use their weapons to kill our children. Now we're using their weapons to kill their war machine." The campaign lasted 6 weeks. When it was over, the Velthari Empire no longer existed as a military force. Their fleets were gone. Their bases were ruins. Their leaders were either dead or in human custody. But the psychological damage was even greater. The Velthari people had learned that their mighty empire could be destroyed by a species they had considered primitive. They had learned that the humans they mocked were capable of warfare beyond their nightmares. More importantly, every other species in the galaxy had watched it happen. They had seen what humans became when someone crossed the line that should never be crossed. Admiral Jang stood before the Galactic Council, her face calm and professional. Behind her, holographic displays showed the complete destruction of Velthari military power. "The Velthari Empire no longer poses a threat to human civilians," she announced. "Our military objectives have been achieved." "Admiral," the Council, President said, his 4 arms shaking slightly, "you have violated every treaty, every law, every principle that our civilization is built on." President Moon Jae-in stood at the window of his office on Earth, looking out at the blue sky that had once seemed so ordinary. 6 months had passed since the Velthari War ended, and the galaxy would never be the same. Neither would humanity. "Morning reports, Mr. President," his aide said, placing a data pad on his desk. 3 more species have requested human protection for their trade routes. The Keth Mori want us to mediate their border dispute with the Crystalline Collective, and the Galactic Council is asking when we plan to return to normal diplomatic relations. "Normal." President Moon repeated the word quietly. "I don't think any of us remember what normal means anymore." The door opened, and Admiral Park Young-ho entered, still wearing his military uniform. He had been promoted to lead the new human patrol fleet, the force that now kept peace in 12 star systems through fear rather than law. "Mr. President, we need to discuss the Zephyrian situation. They've been raiding civilian ships again, but they stop whenever one of our patrol vessels appears in the system." "No actual attacks on the ships?" "No, sir. They seem to understand that attacking civilians in our patrol zones would be unwise." President Moon nodded. This was the new reality. Species that had spent centuries raiding and conquering had become peaceful overnight, not because they had learned to love peace, but because they had learned to fear what humans did to those who hurt innocent people. Diplomat Lee Soo-jin arrived for the daily briefing, carrying files about the new treaties that were reshaping galactic civilization. She looked tired. Everyone in the government looked tired these days. "The new galactic accords are ready for your signature," she said. 47 species have already agreed to the terms. The rest are expected to sign within the week. "What about the Velthari survivors?" "They've agreed to all our conditions. War crimes trials for their military leaders, reparations for Harmony 7th, and complete disarmament. They're also requiring every child in their schools to learn about what happened when they attacked human civilians." President Moon picked up the treaty documents. The new galactic accords were very different from the old ones. There were no more honor games, no more civilized warfare protocols. Instead, there was something much simpler: the human clause. Any attack on civilians, anywhere in the galaxy, would trigger immediate human response. Not negotiation, not sanctions, not diplomatic protests. Direct military action with no rules, and no mercy. 47 species agreed to this willingly, President Moon asked. They're terrified, Admiral Park said bluntly. Half the galaxy thinks we're monsters now. The other half thinks we're the only thing standing between them and the monsters. Which are we? Both, probably. A communication signal came through from the rebuilt colony on Harmony 7th. President Moon accepted the call, and Kang Min-seo's face appeared on the screen. She was 24 now, one of the few survivors of the biological attack that had killed her 8-year-old sister, Da-eun, and 49,000 other colonists. Mr. President, Min-seo said, her voice steady despite the pain that never left her eyes. The memorial garden is ready for the dedication ceremony. We've planted flowers from every human world and trees that will grow for 1,000 years. How are the new colonists settling in? They're doing well. The children especially love it here. They say the flowers smell better than anywhere else. She paused, remembering when her little sister had said the same thing. We've made sure they all know the story. They know why this place is special. They know what it cost. Good. That's important. Min-seo looked directly into the camera. Mr. President, there's something else. The Velthari have been sending messages, not their government, just ordinary people, families. They want to apologize. They want to send flowers for the memorial. What? Do you think we should tell them? I think we should let them come. Not because we forgive them, but because their children need to see what their leaders' choices led to. They need to understand why the galaxy is afraid of us now. After the call ended, President Moon walked back to the window. In the distance, he could see the lights of the spaceport where human ships departed every day for patrol duties across the galaxy. Ships filled with young people who had learned that sometimes being the good guys meant being the scary ones. You think we did the right thing? He asked Admiral Park. I think we did the only thing we could do. The Velthari showed us that in this galaxy the strong take what they want and the weak suffer what they must. We decided not to be weak. Diplomat Lee looked up from her files. The other species are adapting to the new reality faster than we expected. Crime rates have dropped dramatically in systems under human patrol. Trade disputes are being settled, peacefully because nobody wants to risk escalating to violence. Peace through fear, President Moon said. It's still peace, Admiral Park replied. The children sleeping safely tonight don't care why nobody attacks their worlds anymore. They just care that they're safe. On the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Kim Tae-ho sat in the human representative's chair, watching the other species conduct their business. The chamber was quieter now, more polite. When humans spoke, everyone listened. The council president called for the daily status report. Any conflicts requiring mediation? The Moltech territorial dispute has been resolved, reported the Crystalline Collective representative. Both sides agreed to human arbitration rather than risk military action. The Zurkani piracy problem in the Outer Rim has also ended, added another representative. The pirates disbanded their fleets after a human patrol ship appeared in their territory. Ambassador Kim stood up. The human government wants to make something clear to this council. We did not ask to become the galaxy's police force. We did not want to be the species that others fear, but you gave us no choice. He gestured to the records displayed on the main screen. In the 6 months since the Velthari War ended, not a single civilian transport has been attacked. Not one colony has been raided. Not one species has attempted to use biological weapons. This is the most peaceful period in galactic history. Because everyone is afraid of you, the council president said quietly. Yes, because everyone understands that attacking civilians has consequences, real consequences, not trade sanctions or diplomatic protests, but the kind of response that ends civilizations. A new representative raised his hand. He was from a small species that had only recently joined the galactic community. Ambassador Kim, my people are considering joining the protection program, but we're worried about the cost. What do humans demand in return for protection? Nothing, Kim replied. "We don't want your resources or your territory. We don't want you to worship us or serve us. We just want you to follow one simple rule. Don't hurt innocent people. And if someone does, then they learn why our world is called a death world." The session ended, and Ambassador Kim returned to his quarters. On his desk was a letter from his daughter, who was now serving as a captain in the human patrol fleet. She wrote about the quiet satisfaction of knowing that her presence in a system meant families could sleep safely. But she also wrote about the loneliness of being feared, the isolation that came with being the galaxy's monsters, even if they were monsters who protected the innocent. Kim understood. Humanity had paid a price for becoming the galaxy's enforcers. They had given up the dream of being loved by their neighbors. They had accepted the burden of being the species that others whispered about in the dark. But when he thought about little Kang Da-eun and the 49,000 other people who had died on Harmony 7th, he knew the price was worth paying. On distant worlds, in schools and homes across the galaxy, parents told their children the story of what happened when someone hurt human children. They told them about the day the Deathworlders stopped playing clean, stopped following rules, stopped caring about being liked. The story always ended the same way. And that's why we have peace now, not because everyone learned to love each other, but because everyone learned that some lines should never be crossed. Years passed. New species joined the galactic community and learned the rules. Children grew up in a galaxy where piracy and slavery and genocide were things that only existed in history books. Trade flourished, science advanced. Art and culture bloomed in the safety that human strength provided. And on Harmony 7th, Kang Min-seo tended her memorial garden, surrounded by flowers that smelled sweeter than anywhere else in the galaxy. She was no longer alone. New colonists had come. Families had grown, children played in the same fields where her sister had died. Sometimes she would see human patrol ships passing overhead, and she would think about the price of peace. Her sister's death had taught the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for 1,000 years. It was a terrible lesson, bought with terrible pain, but it had saved countless other children from suffering the same fate. The galaxy was safe now. Safe because it remembered the day the Deathworlders stopped playing clean.